Inside the car, Jungkook, how much longer? His tone clipped, his finger drumming impatiently on the car door. Driver, almost there, sir, the driver replied, stealing a quick glance in the rear view mirror. Jungkook turned to the man sitting beside him, Ben, his most trusted right hand. His expression was unreadable, his eyes fixed ahead with the quiet intensity. Jungkook, did you tell the staff to have everything ready? He asked sharply. Ben, yes boss, everything's been instructed. You don't need to worry. Jungkook, I don't want to see a single mistake tomorrow. Ben felt a chill run down his spine. Though he nodded with calm confidence, his body betrayed him. Goosebumps rose along his arms, and a knot formed in his stomach. Still he forced a steady tone. Ben, everything is in place, sir. The car pulled to a stop in front of a grand estate. As Jungkook stepped out, a row of bodyguards stood waiting in disciplined formation, their faces rigid and their eyes lowered. He said nothing, just walked past them in silence, the weight of his presence sending a wave of uneasy through the air. Inside, the household staff stood lined up with heads bowed, not a whisper among them. The atmosphere was tense, like the quiet before a storm. Jungkook's eyes scanned them. He ordered coldly, Jungkook, bring the children in, feed them, put them to sleep, it's late. At his command, the bodyguards moved forward with precision, carrying the two children gently but firmly into the house. The staff, still silent, exchanged quick glances as they took the babies from the guard. Without another word, they carried the children towards the nursery. Jungkook didn't follow. He simply stood there, surrounded by silence, the storm behind his eyes far from over. Jungkook sat silently at the grand dining table, the soft clink of silver against porcelain, the only sound echoing through the dimly lit room around him. Several servants stood motionless, watchful, cautious. None dared speak. Their eyes were fixed on Jungkook, waiting for the slightest cue, the smallest sign that he might need something. But most of all, they stood there in fear that something might be wrong with the food. He continued eating without a word, his face unreadable. Then suddenly he stopped. His fork rested mid-air for a moment before he placed it down with airy calm. His expression gave nothing away. Without looking at anyone, he pushed his chair back and stood up. Not a single servant moved. Jungkook left the dining room in silence, his footsteps echoing through the marble corridor. Once he disappeared from sight, the servants exchanged nervous glances. No one spoke, but a collective breath in relief rippled through them. Whatever had made him stop eating, at least it wasn't their mistake. Not this time. In the nursery, chaos was brewing. Two maids hovered over the cribs, trying desperately to calm the children, but no matter how gently they spoke or how softly they rocked them, the babies refused to eat. Their small faces were red from crying, their wide, searching eyes filled with confusion and fear. They didn't recognize anyone here. They were looking for her, for Wyan. They cried louder with every minute, little hands reaching out to know her. One maid managed to feed them just a spoonful or two, but even that had been a struggle. The unfamiliar surrounding, the unfamiliar people, it was too much. Their cries grew shriller, echoing through the hall. Jungkook appeared at the nursery door. The moment the maids saw him, their bodies stiffened, their skin went cold. His presence was always heavy, but right now it felt suffocating. Jungkook, what's going on? He demanded, his voice low but sharp. Jungkook, why are they still crying? Maid 1, we were trying our best, sir. They will fall asleep soon. Jungkook, did they eat? He asked, his tone flat but laced with danger. The maids looked at each other, unsure how to answer. Maid 2, They did, just a little. Please don't worry, sir. They will be asleep soon. Jungkook narrowed his eyes but said nothing for a moment. Then he spoke again. Jungkook, stay with them at all times. If they need anything, tell the guards. They will bring it. He turned and walked out. As soon as he disappeared down the corridor, everyone in the room let out a breath. They hadn't realized they are holding. The children, however, would not stop crying. The maids tried again and again to lull them to sleep, but it didn't last. Every few minutes the crying would start anew, louder, more desperate. One of the maids looked at each other with fear in her eyes and whispered, "Thank God he is sleeping deep tonight. If he had read this, I don't think we would have survived the night." Morning light spilled softly through the nursery curtains. The crying had finally stopped, though not from comfort, but from exhaustion. The babies had cried themselves to sleep, their tiny bodies limped, their breaths slow and slow. Jungkook stood at the doorway, his imposing figure unusually still. He stepped inside, eyes quietly scanning the room. He didn't speak, he didn't scowl. He simply walked to the cribs and leaned over one of them. Gently, he picked up the baby and held it in his arms. He stared down, his face unreadable. For a long moment, he said nothing, only observed, his thoughts buried too deep to surface. Then his eyes shifted to the other crib. The second child stirred and slowly opened its eyes. The first followed. Both babies blinked at the man holding them, their gazes locked onto his face. They didn't cry, they just stared. Jungkook was taken aback for a moment by their silence. Then something strange happened. He smiled. A faint, fleeting curve of the lip, nothing more, but enough to change the entire atmosphere of the room. He pressed a soft kiss to the forehead of the child in his arms, then carefully laid it back in the crib. Then he picked up the second one, whispering something under his breath no one could hear. Again he kissed its forehead and laid it gently down beside its sibling. He stayed there a while longer, simply watching. From the hallway the household staff watched too, hidden in the shadows. They had never seen their boss like this before, quiet, tender, almost human. No one dared say a word. They knew how Jungkook reacted to sentiment being noticed. It would mean the end of someone's job or worse. When Jungkook finally stepped out of the nursery, all the staff immediately looked down, silent as statues. He glances at them, then gave a short order. "Jungkook, feed them. It's morning already." The maids bowed slightly and entered the nursery, grateful for the command that broke the silence. Jungkook lingered for just a moment longer, watching as they began preparing the bottles. His eyes held something unspoken, some silent tone that remained hidden behind a calm exterior. He let out a heavy breath and turned away, walking off without another word. In the car, Jungkook sat in the back of the sleek black SUV. Beside him was Ben, his trusted right-hand man. Several bodyguards were in the convoy spread across other vehicles. The mood was stiff, serious. No one spoke. Outside, the city flew past, but inside the car, the silence was thick. Suddenly, Jungkook broke it. "Jungkook, have all the weapons arrived at the seaport?" Ben straightened immediately. "Ben, yes sir, everything has been moved. Nothing was left behind." "Jungkook, tell them to double check. I don't want a single piece missed. Not this time," he said, eyes staring straight ahead. Ben already instructed them, boss. I have been overseeing every part of transfer myself. There is no reason for concern. Jungkook gave a small nod of approval but said nothing more. He remained quiet the rest of the day, his gaze fixed forward, his thoughts unreadable, just like always. Once sat in silence, her eyes blank and unblinking. Her world has collapsed, and she hadn't uttered a word since. Across from her, Lily watched, helplessly, trying to coax even a single sentence from her boss, but it was like speaking to a shadow. "Ma'am," Lily said gently, kneeling beside him, "let's go to the police. We have to tell them everything. They will help. I am sure they will." For the first time in hours, Wyan turned her head. Her voice cracked low and tired. "Wyan, give me a moment. I will get ready." She stood up quickly, urgency sparking back into her movement. Lily sat, waiting patiently, her heart pounding. Moment later, Wyan returned, dressed and ready. "Wyan, I can't wait anymore," she said, eyes fierce. "Wyan, let's go." At the police station, they burst through the doors of the local police station. Wyan wasted no time. "Wyan, last night," she began, almost shouting, "a group of men came to my house and took my children, my babies. One of them claimed to be their father and forced them away from me." She was frantic, barely able to breathe between her words. The officer behind the desk leaned forward, trying to keep pace. "Police officer, we have already investigated," he said calmly. "There were no familial connections found to the children, so how can a man suddenly appear and claim to be their father?" Lily slammed her hand down on the desk. "Lily, that's your job, to investigate properly. How do you know he is their father? Did you confirm anything? You are just letting a stranger walk away with two children." Wyan's voice broke. "Wyan, I don't know where they are, how they are, or who those men were, but I want my children back. Do something." The officer sighed, visibly uncomfortable. "Police officer, look, we will do our best. Go home for now. We promise your children will be returned today." Reluctantly and with no better choice, the two women left, but their faith in the system had already begun to crumble. Refusing to wait, Wyan and Lily set out into the streets themselves. They searched every possible place, asked strangers, stopped at corners, spoke to shopkeepers, desperate for any sign of the babies, but nothing, no trace, no whisper. Exhausted and broken, the two women slumped down on a bench under the fading afternoon sun. Their clothes were dusted with the day, their eyes tired and red. Then Wyan's phone rang. She answered immediately, hope blooming in her chest, only to be crushed the very next second. It was from police station. She picked it up, answered, and went there. "Police officer, I am sorry. We won't be able to return the children to you." The world blurred. Wine felt the air escape her lungs. Her knees gave up beneath her, and Lily had to catch her. "Lily, what are you saying?" she screamed. "Are you out of your mind? You can't give them back. What the hell does that even mean?" The officer's voice was tight, shaking. "Police officer, we have confirmed that the man who took them is named JK. He may be their father, but that's all we could find. We can't proceed any further." Lily's temper exploded. "Lily, you were unsure if he is their father, and yet you are letting him keep them. What kind of pathetic system is this?" There was silence on the other end before the officer spoke again, this time with genuine fear in his voice. "Police officer, listen. The man who took them, he was part of underworld, a mafia leader. No one finds him unless he wants to be found. We have tried. Many of our men have died trying to chase him. He is dangerous. We can't help you any further. I'm sorry." Lily was speechless. Wine had fallen into a stunned silence, her body trembling. They returned home with empty arms and heavier hearts. The night, Wine could not be consoled. She sat on the floor, rocking back and forth, whispering her baby's name over and over. Lily stayed with her. She could not bear to leave her alone. Outside, the night grew darker than ever before. Inside the Jeon mansion, tension hung as heavy as the silence. The grand halls echoes with the sharp, relentless cries of two small children. Panic settled into every servant's face, every bodyguard's tense. No one could calm them, no one could make them eat. And everyone knew when Jungkook returned, there would be consequence. The clock struck late, footsteps echoed through the marble floor. The boss had arrived. As soon as Jungkook stepped into the house, his brows furrowed. The cries pierced through the air like sirens. Something was wrong. Jungkook, what's going on? He asked, his voice sharp. Why are they crying like that? No one answered. Heads hung low. Fear draped the room like a thick fog. Jungkook didn't wait. He strode straight to the children's room. What he saw only deepened his cold. The babies were wailing uncontrollably, their faces flushed from the effort. Several maids hovered around them, trying in vain to feed them, calm them, soothe them. Nothing was working. Jungkook's eyes blazed. Jungkook, why are they still crying? Have they not eaten anything all day? The staff stood frozen. One of the maids finally gathered the courage to speak, her voice trembling. Maid, we tried, sir. We really did. They are not eating anything. They are too young. We think they might be missing their mother. A bit of silence followed, then crash. Jungkook hurled a porcelain vase across the room. It shattered against the wall, and with it, the last thread of calm in the house. Everyone jumped. No one dared breathe. Jungkook, I want those kids taken care of properly. If they don't eat, not a single bullet will fall to the ground before one of you does. He snapped. His voice was lethal, cold steel wrapped in fire. The staff nodded frantically, too terrified to speak. Without another word, Jungkook stormed off to his room. JK point of view. Inside, he sank onto his bed and stared blankly at the ceiling. The cry still echoed faintly in his ears, but his thoughts were louder. They are my responsibility now. If something happens to them, I will never forgive myself. He exhaled, the weight on his chest growing heavier. They are so little. They need a mother's care, a mother's warmth. The words echoes his mind like a whisper from another life. Jungkook closed his eyes, the edge in his heart softening for a moment. He lay still for a long time, tangled in thought. Eventually sleep claimed him, but it was the uneasy sleep of a man haunted by his own choices. The following morning, the mansion was gripped by an eerie stillness. The cries were gone, but the silence was worse. The children weren't making a sound, no whimper, no sobs, nothing. Their teenage heads rose and fell in slow, fragile breaths. The once restless babies now lay motionless, like porcelain dolls drained of life. Panic spread through the mansion like wildfire. Maids whispered in corners. Guards exchanged anxious glances. Everyone too afraid to speak, too afraid what this meant. Then the news reached Jungkook. He didn't wait for details. He ran. The doors to the nursery slammed open. Jungkook stood at the threshold, eyes darting to the pale, lifeless faces of the two babies. Their skin was cold, their breathing shallow. Jungkook, get the car. We are going to the hospital now. His voice was low, controlled, but thunderous in its urgency. No one dared delay. Within minutes, the black SUV was ready. Jungkook climbed in, the babies in his arms. He held them close, staring at them in silence, guilt tightening around his heart like a noose. No one in the vehicle spoke. The air was heavy with dirt. They reached the hospital, one of Jungkook's own, privately owned and operated under his control. But even here, no one felt safe delivering bad news to the boss. As soon as the car stopped, doctors rushed in and carefully took the babies from Jungkook's arms. The children were wheeled into the emergency ward. Jungkook stayed behind, standing still outside the doors, fist clenched, jaw locked. After what felt like an eternity, the doctors returned. Their coats were spotless, but their expressions were riddled with uneasy. Jungkook stepped forward. "Are they okay? Tell me they are okay." The doctors hesitated. The silence said more than words ever could. Finally, one of them spoke, his voice low and careful. "Doctor, sir, the children are very young. At this stage, they desperately need their mother's warmth. The constant refusal to eat, the long hours of crying, it's weakened their bodies severely. Their condition is critical." Jungkook's world spun. For a moment, everything inside him went still. He stared at the doctors, trying to process the words. "Jungkook, do whatever you need to. I just want them safe. I don't care what it takes." There was no room for negotiation in his tone. It was command, disguised as concern. Yet even so, the doctor took a breath, steadying himself before adding the one thing no one dared to say aloud. "Doctor, sir, we have placed them under constant observation. We will do everything we can. But if this continues, if they stay without their mother for too long, we may not be able to save them." Jungkook didn't respond. He simply stood there, breathing hard, trying to swallow the knot in his throat. The doctors retreated. Minutes passed before he was allowed a glimpse inside the observation room. He wasn't permitted to enter, just stand outside the glass looking in. There they were, two teeny bodies under warm lights, saline tubes attached to their fragile arms, their eyes closed, their skin pale. Machines beeped softly beside them. Something twisted violently inside Jungkook. He gripped the edge of the window, knuckles wide. He had power. He had wealth. He could bring down government if he wanted, but he could not stop this. He turned away. Outside the window, Ben stood silently, head bowed. Jungkook looked at him, cold, determined. "Jungkook, get the car ready. We are going." Ben nodded and disappeared without a word. Jungkook didn't say where. He didn't need to. Everyone knew exactly where he was headed. At Wine's house, Wine sat motionless in her room, the silence pressing down on her like a weight she could not lift. Her thoughts refused to leave her alone. The children. Their faces haunted her, the sound of their laughter now replaced by the quiet echo of absence echoed in her mind. She hadn't eaten, she hadn't moved. Lily had gone to the cafe for the day, handling things alone, but even that didn't console her now. The world outside might as well have stopped existing. Then suddenly, bang, 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 a loud, sharp pounding at the door shattered the stillness. Wine didn't flinch, she heard it, but chose to ignore it. Whoever it was, she didn't want to see them. She didn't want to talk. She wanted the noise to go away, but the pounding only grew louder, more urgent, more aggressive. It sounded like someone might break the door down at any moment. Annoyed and disturbed, Wine finally stood up and made her way to the door. As soon as she opened it, her heart skipped a beat. Several men stood before her, all dressed in black coats, their faces obscured by dark sunglasses, their presence radiating power and control. Without a word, they stepped aside. Then he entered, Jungkook. The moment in her eyes met his, her breath caught in throat, her lips parted, but no words came out. She had rehearsed what she would say if she ever saw him again, but now in front of him, everything dissolved. Her hands trembled, her legs felt weak. He said nothing, just stared at her with cold, unreadable eyes. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Finally, one found her voice. "Wine, where are my children? Bring them back to me," she asked, her tone sharp, desperate. Jungkook's gaze didn't soften. "Jungkook, I have come to take you to them." "Wine, I am not going anywhere with you. Just return my child." But Jungkook didn't budge. He didn't argue. Instead, he said quietly, almost tiredly, "Jungkook, they are not here. They are in the hospital." The words struck her like a blow. Her body froze. Wine. What did you say? What you did with them? She shouted. Jungkook, they are very ill. I didn't want to tell you this way. They stopped eating. They would not stop crying. Now they are under observation, weak, barely breathing. The color drained from Wine's face. Her niece nearly gave out. Wine, take me to them, she said without hesitation. Jungkook gave a single nod, and that was all it took. No further word, no arguments. Wine followed. She didn't know what this meant. She didn't know what it would cost her. But in that moment, all she knew was that her children needed her, and she would go anywhere in the world to get to them. What she would not know was how this decision would change everything.